Welcome to Math, Workplace and Apprenticeship 30. We're going to start right off the bat with Chapter 1 and looking at 1.1, which is linear relations. Throughout this chapter, you will use what we learn in this chapter to recognize linear and nonlinear relations in graphs, table of values and equations. You'll also know how to create table of values and graphs. You'll know how to write equations representing linear relations and study trends in data displayed in scatter plots, and you'll be able to use equations to express linear trends. You can also use these equations to interpolate and extrapolate data based on a trend. If you flip then, we're going to start reviewing some prior concepts that you would have learned in previous years in your math classes. So plotting ordered pairs is key to graphing. If you flip to your next page, we'll go through some questions. So start by telling me which point is located at each ordered pair. You'll notice that the x coordinate comes first and the y coordinate will follow. So go through questions 1 to 5, looking at the previous one and checking your answers with what I've given you here. Then you can move on to writing the ordered pair for each given point. Again, the ordered pair you just find by counting the numbers up and over to your letter. Last but not least, you'll need to be able to plot following points on the coordinate grid. So if you look at your graph, letter S, you're plotting at 6 over and 11 up. The next important concept that you'll need is to figure out order of operations. The key rule here is bed mass. So you always start with your brackets, then your exponents, division and multiplication, and then addition and subtraction. If you look at question number 1, you're first going to start with changing the exponents into whole numbers. So we end up with 25 times 10 minus 144, which then since you're in addition and subtraction, it can be done at the same time to get your answer of 106. Then go through the rest of the questions. When you get to the last one, you'll notice that you've got exponents inside brackets. These exponents can be done first, and then your brackets can be calculated. Another key part of our review is solving linear equations. The first thing you should always do is combine like terms, and then when you need to organize things to do this, you use the opposite operation. So for example, if you've got a positive number, you would subtract it to the other side. If you look at question number 1, we're going to start by combining the 4 plus x and the minus 3. So the 4 and the negative 3 can go together because they are like terms. Like just means that they have the same degree of variable, so 3 and 4 have no variable, so they can be combined. So when we combine the negative 3 and the 4, we get a positive 1 plus x. Now to move that positive 1 to the other side, we need to use the opposite operation, which is subtracting. So we'll subtract 1 then to both sides. And your final answer is x equals negative 4. Go ahead and try this for all the other questions. Note when you get to number 4, you need to know what you've learned about fractions. So adding and subtracting fractions, you need a common denominator, and then can go through your steps. Same goes with x's. Just pretend that they're regular fractions and find your common denominator until you have a final answer. Next, you can turn to page 12 and read through the math on the job. Question number 1 for math on the job says, examine table 1. What do you notice about how each quantity increases? So here, if you look at the number of tarts, as you do 2 batches, it doubles. If you do 3 batches, it triples. Same with the eggs. The eggs from 1 to 2 doubles, and 3 batches triples. Same with the cheese and all of the other ingredients. So what you can write for that one is that it increases at a constant amount. When you start to graph this, we're going to put the eggs on the horizontal or the x-axis and the tarts on the vertical or the y-axis. Remember that you always need to label your axes and put a title on them. You also need a title for your graph. it's always safe to go your Y variable title versus your X variable title. So here we have tarts versus eggs. Then once you connect the points on the graph, the next question says, would you connect them, why or why not? In this case, you would not correct the points because, for example, if you're here, you cannot have half an egg. So since there is no middle value between your X values, we do not connect the points. Number 2 says, what quantity of each ingredient will she need to make 5 dozen tarts? Fill in the missing values on the table below. So to change from 12 tarts to 60 tarts, you're changing by a multiple of 5 because you're making 5 dozen batches. So you'll notice then with the eggs, to make 5 dozen batches, how many eggs would you need? You would need 5. So go ahead and complete this table on your own. Try to only check my page for your answers. Do all the fraction work on your own. Once you get to the salt, pepper, paprika, and flour, you notice that you'll have improper fractions, which you want to change so that you have measurements that we use in everyday cooking. Last but not least, cooks must often convert between SI and imperial units. So let's start by looking at the conversion between them. The easiest conversion to look at is the number 1 and the number 5. So 1 teaspoon is the same as 5 milliliters. You'll notice that the teaspoons go up by a constant rate and the milliliters go up by a constant rate. So that it'd be safe to say that this is a constant relationship. However, if you look at the first teaspoons, the 1/2, which is the same as 2.5 milliliters, you'll notice that that doesn't fit with the pattern that we found. However, to find your milliliters, it's always 5 times the amount of your teaspoons. This first set does follow that rule. 5 times 1/2 is 2.5. Then if you look to your graph, you'll notice that here we did connect the dots. We connect the dots because you can have 1/2 teaspoon or 2.5 teaspoons. So there would be values in between those values that we plotted. All right, I'll have another lesson for you tomorrow. It'll be moving on to the rest of 1.1, and you will have probably some homework. I look forward to meeting you all. Have a good day.